morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, whatever time of the day it is that you're tuning in. Welcome to another episode of the Resilience Rising Podcast with me, Naturally Cinnamon. I am a therapist, life coach, resilience cultivator, and the founder and CEO of Jamila Wellness LLC, where women go to be well and live beautifully. You can find us at resiliencerisingpodcast.com. You can also send in your questions, topics, comments, and feedback at resiliencerisingpodcast@gmail.com. Like this, love this, share it, rate it, comment, but most important, make sure that you're subscribed and following. Here's another episode. Hope you enjoy. Hello, everyone, and I'm back. I really do hope you missed me. I hope you did. If you hadn't noticed, I took a few weeks off. A couple of things were being done in those few weeks. I am preparing for the I Am a 5-Star Woman retreat. So the closer we get, the busier it gets. You know, that's kind of the name of the game when it comes to putting together an event and executing it. But also, I have been changing platforms for the podcast, and the main platform that I was using to send the feed out to the other platforms that some of you are subscribed to, I changed that main platform and I'm trying a new platform. So, you know, I had to give time for all the feeds to catch up. So it looks like they're all caught up as of now, with maybe one lagging behind, but they'll get there by the time this podcast episode comes out. So that was another thing that I was taking care of. The third and final thing that I was taking care of in these last few weeks that I haven't been sending out a podcast was I've been taking care of myself. Like you all know, because I talk about it from time to time, you know, I do have a diagnosis of clinical depression. And so, you know, a lot of people try to ignore it and go through life without it. For me, when the wave comes, I deal with it the best I can so I can go ahead and get through it and get back to life, you know, going forward as usual, pushing and trekking forward. And so I did have a couple of incidents come up that, you know, plunged me into a depression. But I'm not going to say I'm 100% back, but, you know, I was keeping myself busy in the meantime, but I was staying as far out of the public eye as I could while I was pulling myself back together with the help of close friends, family, you know, just having my back during my time. So I appreciate those as well. I do appreciate the few of you that did reach out to me to say, hey, where's the podcast? Everything okay? And I apologize for those that I lied to. And I basically was like, oh, I'm just getting ready for the retreat. And, you know, things are kind of busy and hectic, but I'll be back. That was partially true, as you now know. So now you know that wasn't the complete and total truth, but thank you for reaching out to me. That did make me feel good in the moment. I did appreciate that. Thank you so much. So let's go ahead and get into this episode. This episode is actually going to be 2 episodes in one, but you know, we'll roll through it, and I promise I won't keep you for like an hour and a half or anything like that. So the first thing I'm going to do is, as you know, the wins, L's, and I'll knows, but not just, I'm going to tweak it a little bit. This segment is not just going to be my wins, but also, you know, I want to hear about your wins, L's, and I'll knows, but it's also going to be just things that have happened like in our communities, in the news, in the media, whatever, that's worth talking about. So let's get to it. Let's handle the wins. The first win that I have on my list, and these are not in any particular order, it's just, you know, I'm reading them. The first win is Queen Aretha's funeral. I am not going to call that thing a funeral. It was a funeral because it was its own event. So Queen Aretha's funeral. Let me tell you why Queen Aretha's funeral is a win, because I know a lot of people had a lot to say about Queen Aretha's funeral and how long it was and how many days it was. Let me tell you something. I need y'all to do a little bit of research, because when royalty in other countries died, now I am not the one that started calling her the queen. Like, that was something that was out and about before I was born. So I'm just rolling with it. she's the queen. Other royalty in other countries, when their royalty dies, when their monarchs die, honey, they shut down the country for like a month. Like nobody's doing anything anywhere. It's not happening. Businesses are closed. The banks, it shut down. And a friend of mine, I forget what country, I think she said it was Thailand, like a king of Thailand or something like that. I did forget what country she said. She said when the king died, they did have the, different types of ceremonies and services for about a month or 2 months even, I think she said. But the country mourned and wore black for an entire year. And y'all talking about Queen Aretha's 9-10 hour funeral? Child, these other countries are probably like, what? Y'all complaining about 9 hours? Get it together. We do this. So I'm just saying, if we're going to reverence her as royalty, then reverence her as royalty. And I feel like she was reverenced as royalty for days and changing clothes and honey, it was a thing. So big wins, big ups to everybody who carried out Queen Aretha's funeral. There it is. That's a win. I'm counting that as a win. Next win is Ep30. Now, let me explain to y'all what Ep30 is. I know a few of my friends are listening to this right now, kind of chuckling, because Ep30 is OTRII, on the run 2. One of my friends called it Ep30 because that was the hashtag on the run 2. Ep30. So I was like, that's it. It's Ep30. I like it. It sticks. So it stuck with me. Ep30, I actually went. Now, if anybody, listen, let me put it to you like this. I don't have a lot of artists that I can consider myself a true blue fan. Like, all the music that comes out, I'm buying it. Every time they come to town, I'm going to see them. I can't consider, there's not really a lot of people I consider myself a fan of. And nothing, not because I don't like them, but to me, there's a difference between liking an artist and being a fan of that artist. And I like Beyonce. Jay-Z's cool, but I like Beyonce. But I can't consider myself a fan of either one of them because half her music, I don't know. It's like, and even more than that of his music, I don't know. And I don't have a thorough desire to run out and learn it all. But there was no way when a friend of mine was like, you are going to this concert and I don't want to hear anything else about it, I wasn't going to pass that up. I wasn't going to argue with her about it. I'm like, no, let's go. Because you can't deny, fan or not, that going to see the Carters would not be an experience. Of course it was going to be an experience. And I knew it was going to be an experience. So when she brought it up to me, honestly, at the time, I was like, ooh, that's not really in my budget. But listen, when I tell you, you need to have the right people that have your back and know what you need to be at, whether you're ready to go there or not, and they make sure you get there. She made sure I got to Ep30. And she made sure that I got to Ep30. So I got to Ep30. I was able to, experience it and be in the midst. And now I can say, you know what? I've seen Beyonce live in concert, and that was really cool. And I just want to thank my friend for that. And I had a good time. I know she probably thinks I didn't, but I did. So that's a win that I was at Ep30. Yay. So that's a win for me. Another win for me is, I finally, after 6 years, have 0 credit card debt. Yes, thank you. Yes, that's right. You heard me right. I'm going to say it again. I have 0 credit card debt. I don't owe any credit card company any money. That feels amazing. I knew it would feel good, but this, wow, I feel really accomplished. I made some sacrifices to get that done, and it's like, wow, that really worked out. And I'm really, 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 really proud of myself. And I had a coworker ask me, how'd you do it? Text me the things that you did. And I was like, well, it's a little bit more than a text message. And it is. It's more than a text message. So I wrote a blog about it. I will put the link to the blog in the show notes. So you're going to have to click on the show notes to get to the blog. Or you could just go to the website, jamilawellness.org, click on blog, and it'll be there. But it's the things that I did, how I got out of credit card debt. And I'll tell you one thing that I told her. I said, well, one thing you're going to have to do is put the credit cards away. And she was like, what do you mean? And I was like, don't walk around with them. She was like, oh, I can't do that. Well, then, sweetie, I mean, you asked me what I did. That's one of the things that I did. That's one of the things that I did. It was like, if I don't want the balance to keep going up, I got to stop charging. So to make sure I'm not charging anything, I can't walk around with them. So, anyway, all of that's in the blog. But yes, I was able to get myself out of credit card debt. Listen, yes, I am a life coach and a therapist, but I'm also a financial advisor, because one of the things about it, and we talk about this, we will go deeper into this in the 5-star woman retreat, but we feel the 5 stars, there's different stars. There's the spiritual wellness, there's mental wellness, there's emotional wellness, there's physical wellness, and there's financial wellness. And, we can be as physically fit as possible, but if I can't feed myself and I can't pay my bills to keep a roof over my head, how's that going to affect my mental wellness, my mental health? Things, affect each other. And so I had to get my finances straight. I had to get and I have to keep them straight. But I'll tell you, go read the blog. You'll see how I got in the mess, and then you'll see how I got out of the mess too. So big win there. Yay. The next win that I wrote down, first thing I did was I wrote down that for me, a win was Serena Williams' entire wardrobe. The whole thing, the cat suit, and the thing that happened with the cat suit, just, jealousy on top of jealousy, but whatever. That she wasn't allowed to wear her cat suit, but then my girl came back with her tutu. Say something about the tutu. I was like, I love it. And she looked fierce in both of them. Serena, I love you. I love you. Well, I already did, but I love you for being able to just do the things that you do. But let me tell you, as I was writing down the next win of the fact that Serena and Naomi Osaka were going to be playing each other in the Grand Slam finals, I was like, man, this is really cool. This is really neat that this young girl who, by the way, I fell in love immediately with Naomi Osaka when I found out who she was just last week, because I love the fact that she's so authentic. She's so genuine. She's young, and she's young, but she's still mature at the same time. But when she is able to just come out, it's like, yeah, I'm kind of new on the scene. People are just getting to know who I am, but let me make sure that you know who I am. I am Haitian and Japanese. My name is Naomi Osaka. Both sides of my family have been present in my life and have raised me equally. I don't just belong one or another. I'm both. Love it. I was like, yes, Naomi, yes, I love that. So as I'm gearing up to be like, oh my God, they're going to play each other. And then they play each other and it's a good match. And then things just kind of went wonky after that. It was like, the ref had things to say. Well, the umpire had things to say. And when Serena defended herself, then other people had things to say, to the point where it spilled over into this poor young lady's acceptance speech. And she couldn't love the moment where she beat her idol. She just wanted to play against Serena, whether she won or not. I don't, yeah, every time somebody plays, they want to win, but she just wanted to play. She was just like, oh my gosh, I'm just going to go here and play. And she ended up winning and couldn't even bask in her moment. That was her moment that was robbed from her because people were booing. And it was just, it was this whole ridiculous scene. And here comes my girl, Serena, my cousin in my head. Serena's like, no, you got, and even in the midst of her emotions, she had to put aside her emotions. It was like, y'all, look, stop. Let her have her moment. We're going to stop booing. Let's all just get through this. Let her have her moment. And I was like, that was really cool. So Serena was already on my list to announce a win. Naomi was already on my list to announce a win, but they get double wins, triple wins as far as I'm concerned, because They have both showed class and poise in the face of emotion and adversity. And I'm just like, awesome, wonderful. It's nice to see younger women being able to hold their own and hold their crown and fix each other's crown in the midst of people, throwing stuff at them, trying to knock their crown off, and be able to just keep it on. And that was really cool for me. So that's a win as well. Now, my last win that's on my list, Nike. That's all I'm going to say. No, it's not. But Nike is on my list, and you can't see my list, but my list, is just written in regular handwriting until I got to Nike, and I wrote Nike in all caps real big with exclamation points for so many reasons, because Nike reminded us who they are, but Nike snatched my little edges. Nike snatched my wig off, and I don't even wear a wig, but Nike went and got me a wig, put it on me, and then snatched it off of me and took a couple edges with it when they did that. Nike let me have it because Nike, when they launched this campaign with Colin Kaepernick, and I want y'all to know I have to practice his name because if I talk really fast, I will call him Colin Kaepernick. I've always done that with him, but anyway, Colin Kaepernick as the face of this new, and it's a big campaign. He's one of the faces, but that was the most controversial face of an ad that he did. But you know what? Nike has a history of standing by the athletes that they back, even when there's a controversial event that comes up. They have a habit of doing that. So this wasn't a complete and total shock to a lot of people who have followed the brand for a while. But, even in the face of the backlash they got, how Nike's like, hey, but we're good over here. So y'all do it, whatever. What really got me was Nike was just like, have the nerve to stand for something, even if it costs you everything. And I mean, that thing snatched that wig off so fast because I was like, Cinnamon, what are you standing for? Even if it costs you something. And there are a couple of things, I'm not going to call them out because I'm not trying to toot my horn right now, but there are a couple of things that I was just living like, well, you know what, if it has to go, it has to go. And it is what it is. Well, I'll name one. One of those things is speaking my depression story. I've gotten backlash from that. I've had people in the church tell me that I'm not supposed to air my dirty laundry. I have had, family members tell me what I need to do. Well, maybe you shouldn't talk about it. You talking about too many things in public and on the air. Maybe you should do this and that. So I've gotten some backlash. I've gotten some responses. I gotten some criticism. But and I said in the very, very, very beginning, probably the first episode, that I was afraid to even say anything because I didn't want to potentially lose clients. I didn't want it to hurt my business. But you know what? It is what it is. This is what it looks like. Real, raw, true, uncovered, living with depression. This is what it looks like to go in to work day in, day out, to live your life day in, day out. That one day is good. The next day you can't peel yourself off the mattress of your bed. It's tough. It's hard. And I think it takes a certain amount of courage to come out and say, this thing right here is hard. This is tough. It is difficult. And today is harder than it was yesterday. Hopefully the day after that won't be quite as hard, but this thing is hard. And I took a stand and I'm like, no, I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to keep talking about it. And if you don't like it, then turn me off. If you don't want to hear it, then turn my voice off. But I'm going to keep talking about it. And Nike, they came for me. And I know I'm not the only one that they came for, but they came for me with this. Even if it costs you something, do you believe in it enough to stand up for it and to stand behind it? Even if it costs you something that you really, really wanted to keep. Woo. Nike came for me. They did. And I give them the biggest win of today, of this list. I give them the biggest. Nike. You did that. So let's move forward to the L's. The L's, I'm going to say this. In Ep30, remember Ep30 is on the run too. Ep30 in Atlanta, you guys may have heard of that guy that ran up on the stage, right? He did. He rushed the stage at Ep30 in Atlanta, and I'm gonna give him an L. I'm gonna give him an L for that. But excuse me. I think there was an L in it for him, the lesson, but there's a definite L in it for the security. That was a definite L in security because they sure learned it. Now the ATL in Atlanta, the Atlanta shows, there were two of them. The Atlanta shows were before the ones in Miami, and I went to the one in Miami. And honey, let me tell you, I don't know what the security looked like before Atlanta, but the security that I saw in Miami, nobody was getting up on that stage. That was not happening. So that was an L for security. That was an L for him. I was like, dude, what was you thinking? I don't know if he had an experience that he was, deciding to indulge in some substances or something. I don't know. But it was like, what? Really, sir, excuse me, sir, I don't think you're supposed to do that. Sir, I don't, yeah, you probably shouldn't have did that. But it was like, okay, sir. But it was sure enough. I'm sure he learned something from that, but I know security learned something and they fixed that quickly. Another L that I wrote down is the people who were deciding to burn their Nike stuff. I'm giving y'all an L, not for lessons. Y'all are just straight up losers. That's the end of that. And I'm not spending another second on that topic. So go just take your L. And the next L, I'm not exactly sure how I want to open up this conversation, but I want to, let's go back to Queen Aretha's funeral. Miss Ariana Grande, there was so much going on discussion wise about her attire. And not just about her attire, about the minister person's, the way he touched her, and then a comment he made, but I'm not going to continue to rehash that. What I want to know, because I looked at it from another perspective. I looked at it from a perspective of a young Black woman who grew up in the Black church and still attends a Black church, and how we seem to almost look for someone who is not a member of the Black church, someone who did not grow up in the Black church, to mess up and make a misstep, and we lurch. It's like, oh God, oh my God, did you see that? Did you hear what they said? Did you see how they walked in here? Did you see it? Can we calm down just a little? I'm sure that there was a teachable moment for her. I'm sure that she probably, I'm positive she heard some of the feedback. I had one friend that say she should fire her wardrobe stylist. I mean, we don't know. She probably did. After that, she probably was like, yeah, you had me out there looking a kind of way and I don't appreciate it, and I'm going to go ahead and relieve you of your duties. I don't know. And the truth is, neither do you. So, but here's what I do know. That girl was in a church. When was the last time she went to church? That may or may not have been the first time in a while she was in a church, and she could have felt welcomed and loved, and, maybe she wanted to return. Maybe not to that particular church, especially after the pastor decided to have a cheap free rub up at her expense. Anyway, that's a whole other topic right there. But I mean, and I just think of some of the people that may come to the church that I attend, or churches that I've ever been to in the past, and may not look a certain way. I've gone to funerals where there have been people who will sit in the corner and talk about the way that the other girls dressed that came to the funerals. They may not go to church on a regular basis and may not own church attire, and I'm using air quotes, church attire. And so they did the best they could, but y'all kiki and sniggling and giggling and whispering about them is that really, ask yourself, is that really something that seems inviting for you to want to return? Let's be careful about it. I'm not making a judgment on it. I don't know. And I don't know. I don't know how Ariana felt. I don't know how some other people who go into churches feel, but can we be mindful of that? Can we just start to be, so this is my L. That's a lesson that I think needs to go out. Can we be a little bit more mindful of our reactions to people when they show up in our places of worship, not dressed or looking a way that we're accustomed to or a way that we think they should? Can we do that? And for anybody who's about to argue to say, well, you can't show up a certain type of way because it may be distracting to the men, honey, let me tell you, I have known plenty women that will come, rivaling nun wear, and men will still try to rub up against her. So I've seen some stuff. I've experienced some stuff. Okay, like I said, that's another topic for another day. But I'm just saying that, I looked at the responses to Ariana Grande's dress, and I compared it to these are direct comments that I've heard people give, regular old Stephanie. Sorry, if anybody out there is named Stephanie, but that's just the first thought that came to my mind. Regular Stephanie that just came to her great uncle's funeral, and that's the kind of dress, that's the black that she had in her closet. And she came, and now she's dealing with the whispers and the talk behind what she's wearing. Is she gonna show up again? Chances are not anytime soon. So that's just something that's where my mind went when people were going so hard on Ariana Grande's clothes. It was like, okay, but it's not just Ariana Grande that we treat like this. That we, meaning the black church. It's not just that. It's also, you know what I mean? This just happens regularly. And what kind of message are we sending to those who are sitting here watching the memes and the comments that are going forth from the black church folk, the Christians that are saying these things? What are other people who are considering going to church that Sunday now thinking? Well, what's the point? All they're going to do is talk about me. So let's just be mindful. Okay, moving forward. Now, the I don't know how I feel about them. There's a list of I don't knows, but I'm just going to give one because I really want to be like, really? What was that? And that was Sephora. Sephora apparently decided to get in on the crystals and sage burning and, market in time for Halloween coming up, and they decided to release, ill-advised, they released and quickly took back their witches starter kit or some foolishness. I want to be like, Sephora, what was that? Like, okay, so y'all took it back, but now I want to know, so what was y'all mindset behind that? Like, what were you thinking? Like, who did you think was going to like that? Those who do actually practice witchcraft or, and Wicca, they were very offended. And yes, it was indeed cultural appropriation. They were not pleased. They were highly offended. Even those of us who don't necessarily practice Wicca, but we believe in healing crystals or sage, and that there are, metaphysical properties in stones. What was that? But what? Okay. I put that under, I don't know, because it was like, what? Sephora, why? I like you a lot, Sephora. I mean, like, spend good money there a lot. Why would you do that? What were you thinking? Thank you for pulling it off the shelves immediately and issuing your apology. But initially it's like, what? In these climates and in these times where you have to be super hypersensitive in your marketing of things, what made you think that was a good idea? Where were you going with that? Where were you coming from? And where were you going? I don't know. So those are my wins, L's, and I don't knows. That's all I'm going to cover. If you have any, please be sure to send them in to me. Send them by DM on Instagram, or you can email them in to me. You could even send it in through the Facebook, either the Facebook group or the Facebook page. So you could do either of those. So let's get into our double feature topic for today. I am going to introduce a topic and then I'm going to revisit an old topic because a few questions came in, but it's enough questions that actually goes along with this new topic. And what I want to cover is I'm going to tell you the episode we're piggybacking off of. We're going all the way back to episode 14. By the way, this is episode 30. I'm already at 30, y'all. Like, wow, I'm kind of proud of myself. But we're going to go all the way back to episode 14. In episode 14, I was talking about describing depression. Someone had written in and had asked a question saying that they wanted to be able to describe what their depression feels like to their family members, and they were writing and asking for some help, like what would I say. And so I posed the question online, and I gathered some other people who have had similar experiences with depression. They chimed in with the way they would describe it, and then I likened it to a cell phone battery, like a battery charging. And so I got a question that asked, what would you do if you needed to recharge? Like, it's time to recharge. How do we do that? So I will say this. A lot of people find different ways to recharge. Everybody's got a different type of battery. So what it takes to recharge your battery, it may not be the same as someone else's. It might be, but it might not be. So I encourage you to try a few different things. See what works for you and see what doesn't work for you. And, maybe a combination of things. It may not be just one thing you have to do and you feel, recharged of energy and recharged, spiritually or emotionally. It may be 4 or 5 things that you need to incorporate. So just keep that in mind. But here are just a few things that I would say in order to recharge. Here's some things you need to try to, you can look into plugging into. First things first, and you ought to know I'm going to say this. First thing you need to do is plug into a therapist. I wholeheartedly believe in therapy, not just because I am a therapist, but remember, I've not just been a therapist, I've been a client as well. I am still a client. I am a therapist and I have my own therapist. When I need to go for a tune-up, I go for a tune-up. So plug into a therapist. Find a therapist that's right for you. There's going to be a blog coming up shortly. Make sure you subscribe to the VIP email list so you'll know when that blog comes out. One of our bloggers, Miss Samantha Idu, she posted already, but we're going to also transfer her post onto our blog as well so more people can find it. 5 ways to find a therapist. And I thought that was such a great article that I was, she's also a blogger for my site, for Jamila Wellness. So we're going to use that blog on our site as well. So sign up for the email list, the VIP email list. Make sure you subscribe to that so that once that blog hits our website, you'll know about it. But yes, definitely plug into a therapist, and ways to find a therapist. That blog will definitely come out. Plug into exercise. We say it a lot. I hear it said in conversations just so haphazardly. We throw it out like it's a fact that everybody should know, but then how often do we really take hold of it? And that fact is that endorphins makes you happy. When you exercise, your brain releases this chemical called endorphins, this hormone called endorphins, and endorphins helps you feel better, lifts your mood, it kind of lifts your spirit a little bit. So the more we exercise, the more endorphins get released. Does that mean that exercise will solve all of life's problems? No, it'll solve a lot though. I mean, it'll help with a lot. It will help with our physical health as well as our mental and emotional health. But that's something to definitely plug into to help recharge. Something else to plug into sunshine, vitamin D, that we get from the sun. It helps us feel better. It brightens it. I mean, it's there for a reason. We need the sunshine. Have you ever heard in Alaska, there's a statistic somewhere that in Alaska, when it's darker 6 months out of the year, that the depression rates increase at a certain percentage. I know there used to be something that says, oh, people commit suicide in Alaska in those 6 months, but it's really, the depression rates spike. They really go up a lot more. And a lot of the theories behind that is because it's not as much sunshine as you receive in other parts of the year. So plug into some sunshine, go outside, take a walk, sit on the beach. My guy friend goes fishing, just sit outside, go outside, get some oxygen, get some sunshine. Our parents used to tell us that when we were kids all the time: get outside, go outside. Don't sit in this house, go outside. So, there's that. Also, plug into an accountability partner. Plug into somebody, get yourself one or more accountability partner, somebody that's going to keep up with you and say, listen, did you take a walk? Did you get outside and take a walk? That's exercise and sunshine both at the same time. Did you go to see your therapist? Did you locate a therapist? Did you go make an appointment? Did you actually show up? An accountability partner for, I have a couple of friends that are like, you know what, Cinnamon, you haven't done blah, blah, blah in a while. Oh, you're right. I haven't. Maybe I should. And those things are usually something that makes me happy, makes me feel good, gives me a little charge, and helps me feel recharged. For example, one of my accountability partners over the last few months was like, you know what, you haven't gotten your sewing machine out. Crafting is a good thing that helps us feel better. Using our hands, accomplishing something, finishing a project always feels good. So if there's some kind of craft, I used to sew together the skirts that I liked to wear. I know people that like to knit and crochet. I like to paint. I go to a place called Painting with a Twist every few months, and I like to paint. And when it's finished, you just feel so accomplished. So crafting is also a nice way to feel recharged. Plugging into crafting. Matter of fact, I want to know either how to knit or how to crochet, and I'm not really clear on what the difference is. If anybody knows what that is, can you let me know? And, if you know how to do either one and are willing to give me some feedback on which one you think might be something I could pick up quickly, can you please help me out with that? I appreciate that in advance. Thank you. The last thing I'm going to say, which is going to lead me into the second question that came out of episode 14, is I'm going to say plug into medication. Now, I am not saying that everybody who experienced depression needs to be medicated, although some people would disagree with me. There are some people that would say everybody needs to get, go get some medication, it'll make you feel better. It's an individual case. Like, for some people, it may be helpful in the moment. For someone else, they may not need it, So for that, I would definitely talk to a therapist first and talk to a psychiatrist or your medical doctor first before even considering medication. I would definitely have that conversation with both your therapist and a medical doctor. Both. And now I'm going to explain to you why I say that. The next question that was asked was, what are your thoughts on depression meds? I'll let you know that I was medicated once. The very, very first time that I was diagnosed with depression, I was medicated. And I didn't like it. I'm going to just go out and say I didn't like it. I didn't like the way that I felt. I didn't like the fog that I felt that I was in. And there's probably a good month of my life that I can't remember. And to this day, I still don't know kind of what went down. So I personally didn't like it. And that's why I say I don't think that medication is for everybody. It's not something that should be taken generally. It's not a thought that I believe should be taken generally. But I will say this. Treat psychotropic medication, medication for depression, bipolar, anxiety, anything like that. Treat psychotropic medication similarly to the way that you would treat medication for physical impairments, such as diabetes or high blood pressure or high cholesterol. There's medications for those too, right? But no doctor, that's worth anything is going to give you a medication for high blood pressure and not talk to you about your diet. Any doctor that's worth going to may prescribe you some medication for high blood pressure, but they're also going to talk to you about reducing your salt intake or, increasing your exercise, or they're going to talk to you about some other aspect of your life and not just about the medication. Any doctor that gives you some sort of medication for diabetes, and that's worth going to, is going to also talk to you about the types of food you choose to eat and how it breaks down into sugar in your bloodstream, and exercising and how that can help activate the pancreas and different types of things. Doctors who give these medications that know what they're doing and know what they're talking about are also going to talk to you about lifestyle changes that you may need to think about incorporating while you're also taking this medication. Same thing when it comes to psychotropic medications for depression meds. If you are going to start taking depression meds, there needs to be a lifestyle change. If you're taking medication for diabetes, for high blood pressure, for high cholesterol, and you need to start exercising, but you don't know how to get up and start exercising on your own, or you need that extra motivation, what do most people do? They join a gym, or they, pay for a personal trainer. They get a personal trainer. Well, guess what? When you're on a psychotropic medication for depression, for anxiety, for bipolar, for ADHD, for PTSD, whatever it may be, your lifestyle change can come. Your physical trainer needs to be a therapist. So if you are only going to take medication for diabetes and not change anything about your lifestyle, you're only taking medication for diabetes. That's the only thing you're doing. If you're taking medication for depression, but you're making zero changes to your lifestyle, the only thing you're doing is taking medication for depression. It's not a magic pill. These are not magic beans. That's not how it works. That's not how any of this works. So that's why I'm cautious, very, very cautious about talking about medications with people, because I want them to understand. I take the time in explaining, if you are honestly, seriously going to take the medication, but you're not going to engage in any sort of therapy at all, what are you doing? You're just taking the medication. That's it. That's all you're doing. So, to me, medication plus therapy will equal some sort of change or success. Medication alone equals medication alone. That's that. So that's how I feel about depression medication. To answer that person's question, it's not magic beans. A beanstalk with a golden goose is not going to just appear. It's not magic beans. Meds alone don't tend to work quite as well unless for people who take medication and see therapists. People who normally, in my experience, and the people that I've worked with that have decided to take medication as well as see a therapist, after a while, they would start to wean off of the medication and just continue therapy. That's been my experience. Different therapists may have a different experience. That's been mine. So, that's what I'm going to say about the depression meds. Now, the part B of today's talk is that I am asked a lot, how do you know when someone is depressed? So I've talked about, describing it, somebody who is depressed, describing what it's like to someone else, and, ways that we can recharge. But for others who are not depressed or don't think that they have symptoms of depression, but they see loved ones, friends, coworkers that they think that they may be dealing with depression, how do they know? And I first want to say that if you ever come across someone who has just flat out said, I'm going to kill myself. I want to harm myself. I want to cut myself, or whatever it is. Don't waste time to try to observe them. Call for help immediately. You can call 911. You can call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. That phone number, if you want to, I usually tell people plug it in their phones and save it instead of trying to Google it or fumble with it or ask Siri for it. When it's time that they really need it, they can just dial it. And that number to the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is 1-800-273-8255. And yes, I will have that in the show notes as well. But that's 1-800-273-8255. I would really, what I normally do is and this is not giving anybody a license to diagnose anybody with anything. If you have the training, you have the mental health background, and you can diagnose people, and if you have a question of whether or not you can or cannot diagnose someone, here's a hint: you probably can't. Because those of us who can, we know that we can. So if you're not sure, you probably are not somebody who has a degree that can diagnose somebody. No shade. I'm just saying, I'm just letting you know what's what. If you are somebody who can diagnose, then you already know the criteria. If you are not that person and you just want to know something quick to look at, what I normally tell, I talk to a lot of parents about their children and their mental health, teens and adolescents and young adults and mental health, is look for 3 A's. Looking for glaring changes in 3 different places, and they all start with A. So look at the 3 A's. This is in a blog as well, and the blog will be in the show notes. I got a lot of show notes this week, but it will be in the show notes. So look for a glaring change in their appearance. Rapid weight gain or loss, the change in their wardrobe, do they, they used to come to work or wherever looking very put together, and suddenly, for the last few weeks, they just don't look very well put together at all. They don't even look like they've ironed. A glaring change in their hair, skin tone or color, facial expressions, energy levels, something just looks off. Now, I'm going to be honest with you. It could end up being, I've inquired with some people, and it ended up being something along the lines of that they've had to move and they now are sharing a home with 9 other people. And, those kinds of things could happen, but those kinds of things can also have an effect on their mental health. So it's worth looking into. It's worth them looking into. And you saying to them, listen, I care enough about you to let you know that I've noticed this, and I really think you should talk to a therapist. Here, let me help you find one. That just goes a long way by itself. Number 2, glaring change in attendance, meaning like, are they suddenly later absent when they're usually on time, or vice versa? Are they suddenly everywhere when they're normally not everywhere, or are they used to being everywhere and then all of a sudden now you don't see them anywhere at all? Are they going to different places that they typically wouldn't go? And are they no longer going to places that they usually love to go to? A glaring change in their attendance. Again, bringing it to their attention, saying, listen, I care, and I've noticed this. I've noticed XYZ, and I really think that you may need to talk to somebody. And the third one is a glaring change in their affections, also known as their emotions. And now that's probably one of the simplest indicators that something is affecting someone, if their mood is totally different than it normally is. But remember that you need to observe these behaviors over time, maybe like 2 weeks. So, if it's a coworker, there could be something at work that triggers a shift in their mood that does not necessarily mean it's a sign of depression. But, that's one that may be a little tougher to feel out. But again, like I said in the other 2, glaring changes in appearance and attendance when it comes to their affections, if you've noticed a difference, and you care, saying to them, listen, I've noticed that you're usually happy in the morning, and now you're not, something's different. Is everything okay? And even if you don't want to tell me, I think you should probably talk to someone, and I can help you find someone. And again, ways to find a therapist will be sent out to you if you subscribe to our VIP email list. So those are the 3 A's that I wanted to cover as well. And yes, that will be in the show notes as well. So that's our 2-for-1 welcome back episode to the Resilience Rising podcast. Whoo, we made it, and I promised I would not keep you for an hour and a half, and I did not. I kept my promise, so I'm gonna file that back in another win column. Woo, win for me. So, all right, everybody, I am just gonna go ahead and sign off now. We will be back. I've got a lot of catching up to do, but remember, if you want to be part of the I Am a 5-Star Woman retreat, we are down to our last couple of tickets. So you really, really, really need to go ahead and go online right now to starshineconference.com and get your ticket. Use the code podcast to get 10% off your ticket if you're getting that from this podcast. If not, just buy your ticket outright and forget the 10%. But seriously, you are going to miss out on this. And if you don't live in Miami, if you don't live in South Florida, and you would still like to experience the retreat, there's a live stream option for you as well. So don't miss out on that either. All right. See you guys. Love you. Missed you. Thanks for tuning in to Resilience Rising with Naturally Cinnamon. Life has a way of tossing unexpected trials and circumstances our way. We can't stop them, but we can better handle them by raising our resilience. Remember, you can find us at ResilienceRisingPodcast.com, on Instagram at Resilience Rising Podcast, and you can also send in a question or topic for this podcast by emailing us at ResilienceRisingPodcast@gmail.com. Be sure to like this podcast, love it, share it, rate it, and comment, but most important, make sure that you've subscribed and that you're following. I'm Naturally Cinnamon. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. Creative Director Jeremy Key for J Key Collective. Music by AJ Miles.